Hello! Today I would like to address the question why keto diets work. First of all, what is a keto diet? A keto diet is a form of a low-carb diet where carbohydrate is consumed in very low amounts, just 20 to 60 grams a day, and the majority of energy comes from fat. Protein is consumed in moderate amounts. Okay, now the question, why does a keto diet work? Well, as the name already says, keto diet is a diet. A diet means calorie deficit. If our bodies are in calorie deficit, then our fat storages are broken down and the fat is utilized for fuel, so we lose weight. Also, a keto diet requires a calorie deficit, which means you can't just eat whatever you want. However, some people will argue that a calorie isn't equal a calorie. And yes, this is true. Different types of nutrients have different thermogenic effect, which means that is the energy our body requires to digest the nutrients, for example, carbohydrates, proteins, and fat. Interestingly, fat has the lowest thermogenic effect, just 0 to 5%, which is lower than for carbohydrates, which is 5 to 10%. And this point actually contradicts this idea of calorie is not equal a calorie, and that the keto diet works because of this thermogenic effect. Actually, protein has the highest thermogenic effect of 20 to 30%. However, it has to be limited on a keto diet, because if we eat too much protein, some of the amino acids can be transformed into carbohydrates, and then our bodies won't be in this ketogenic state anymore. Ketogenic state means that ketones, that are the molecules that are built in our bodies out of fat components, are used for the fuel instead of carbohydrates. Okay, but what are the possible reasons except calorie deficit why a keto diet might work better than other diets? Well, first of all, there's the effect of protein and fat on satiety. Both of these nutrients, they promote satiety more than the carbohydrates. Also, fat doesn't increase insulin levels. So the insulin is a hormone, it's an anabolic hormone, it's a building hormone, which means when our insulin levels are high, then our body is kind of programmed to store fat. Insulin doesn't respond to fat, but it responds to carbohydrates. So if we eat especially also sugary carbohydrates, our insulin level rises, which makes fat loss more difficult. However, insulin responds also to some amino acids, so essential amino acids lead also to a rise in insulin, but not essential amino acids. And even if a ketogenic diet is more beneficial because it doesn't rise insulin that much, it is not the best thing for people who want to build muscle. Because, as I already mentioned, insulin is an anabolic hormone and it is good for building muscle. Okay, another reason why a ketogenic might work is the exclusion of entire food groups, like carbohydrates. And that are often the food groups that people overeat on, because if you think of sweets, cakes, cookies, etc., they contain lots of carbs and lots of fat. So if you say, okay, I cut out all the carbs, you will cut out most of the sweet junk food as well. And this will automatically lead to fat loss. If somebody has eaten lots and lots of sweets before and then cut them out, the person will lose weight. Another thing is that some people are carb sensitive. It depends on the genetics of these people. If there are less genes that encode carb digesting enzymes, the individuals are more prone to gain weight or become obese compared to individuals who have a higher copy number of these starch digesting genes. So now the question is, does it have to be a keto diet to lose weight or fat? And in my opinion, no, definitely not. So it depends on the personal preferences, it depends on the individual, on the lifestyle. And a diet should be somehow enjoyable, because if you hate it, you won't make it long term. And after the diet stops, because also a keto diet, it isn't a lifestyle, maybe except for people who have problems with carbohydrate digestion. But for all the other people who stop dieting and have cut out this entire food group, carbohydrates, for such a long time, and then come back to normal life, they will just start, or most of them will probably just start eating all the carb-rich foods and regain the weight pretty easily. So it depends on the individual and the preferences. Also, another thing is, I think low-carb diets have several advantages. Also, like this low insulin level that helps fat loss. But it doesn't have to be a keto diet. A low-carb diet will do this job as well. And also, if entire food groups are excluded, like carbohydrates that contain also lots of vegetables, fruits, starches, whole grains, and so on, then there's a risk of nutrient inadequacy. If there's no supplementation with vitamins or other nutrients, there is a risk of malnutrition. Okay, now to conclude, a keto diet works because it's a diet, because it cuts out all the junk, all the crap, all the sweets, and it doesn't mean that another diet wouldn't do this job. Everything depends on the individual,